December 4th, 2024. I wanted to come on and give you guys a bit of an explanation of what you're seeing and what you're hearing, okay? So yeah, so that's why I'm here. Because like I was saying, I know it's going to be hard for some of y'all to really understand what I'm doing. And I think maybe even because you know me, or you have a familiarity, or you may be my family, then some of this is probably going to rub you the wrong way. Some of this is probably going to be a bit of a shock to you. It shouldn't be so much of a shock because my book's been out for 2 years, almost 3 years now. And so a lot of the stuff that you're seeing me talk about now was already written about, right? But now you're going to hear me actually put a voice to what you've read. I always tell people, like, you can't put everything in the book, right? It's a memoir. You can't put every single detail. Like, it can only be so long, you know? But there are some things that they need more explanation, right? They need a little bit more of a breakdown. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking the episodes from my book and I'm really breaking them down so that you can really understand. And my objective of doing this, okay, first of all, let's just go back to the whole divorce part, right? Because that's what's really gonna like probably rub people wrong. They're probably like, how is she like divorcing her father? She's not even married to him. Doesn't even make sense. That whole thing. But one of the great things that happens during times of what we just experienced, let's say like with the election and stuff, right? We're going through the holidays now, and I think people are realizing that you're probably divorcing people from your life and you're not making it like official like I am, right? Like you're not doing it out loud, right? You're not telling the world like I'm divorcing this person from my life, but you are, right? And sometimes we divorce people, sometimes we divorce places, sometimes we divorce things, behaviors. Maybe we're like, okay, going to this place is not good for me. Being part of this organization is not good for me. You know, being a part of this church is not good for me. You know, even being in the group chat, because some of y'all's group chat get pretty toxic, okay? I be hearing things, okay? You know, whenever you're like ready to make a change in your life, you divorce those things that don't serve you anymore, that have been harmful to you, that have been destructive to you, that have been toxic. You divorce, you divorce those things from your life. And that's exactly what I'm doing, right? Now, I know that there's going to be a few different perspectives about what I'm doing, and depending on your perspective is how it's really going to hit you, right? There's going to be the people who understand completely, right? Because they have been through a similar thing. You're going to find yourself in my story. You're going to be like, yeah, I totally see why she's doing that. You know what I'm saying? Some of you are going to be that way about it. Then there's going to be people who may not have those types of relationships. Maybe they don't have a father figure. They never had him. They never knew him. They've always craved to have him. Maybe he passed away at a young age or something like that. Or maybe your mother, it may be your mother or whatever. And that person passed away at a young age. And all you can really think about is, if I had that person in my life, there's no way I would be divorcing them from my life. And so you may come from that perspective and not truly understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Then there's, you know, this group of people that believe that, you know, through forgiveness, you should maintain these relationships. Like you should forgive and forget and just keep moving on with these relationships because life is short. That's your family. There's a whole bunch of reasons, right? People, like, the reasons are like endless of why people feel like you should maintain relationships that are harmful to you or not helping you. That's just a few examples of people who will be looking at my story and listening to my story from their own perspective, right? So I want to encourage you to not allow your perspective, your worldview to really get in the way of what is truly happening in this situation, right? I want you to be objective. I want you to be discerning about this situation. And that's really the whole point, right? That's the point of why I'm doing this publicly, because I want what I'm doing, right, to teach something, right? I want you to get something out of it. I want you to be enriched by this experience. And a couple of things can happen from this experience. You can possibly realize that you're not alone, right? And you're like, okay, yeah, so she had to do the same thing. She had to divorce her, you know what I'm saying? She had to divorce her dad. She had to divorce this organization. She had to divorce her church. She had to divorce her job, whatever it could be. And so you'll realize that you're not alone. And so you'll feel like you have a safe space. You feel like you have a tribe. You have a community of people who understand. Then there are people who will be very harsh about this situation and judge it based on their perspective. And they'll be totally against what I'm doing, right? And then there's another group of people who will objectively look at the situation, and maybe they don't understand from their own perspective, like they may not choose to do it, right? But they totally understand how in certain situations that certain actions are necessary for that person's well-being, right? So you'll have those types of situations. Now, some people will do the same thing, right? They'll do the same thing that I'm doing, right? They'll realize, hey, this is what's best for me, and then I'm gonna cut it off. And then, what was I about to say? And then there are some people who will look at my story and they'll say, you know what I experienced wasn't bad. Maybe I was a bit hasty in my judgment of this situation or this person. Maybe there is hope for this relationship. And so in order for me to be able to move forward with the relationship and not have to divorce myself from this person, place, or thing, then now I have the tools, I have the discernment, I have the critical thinking skills to be able to make a decision that is best for me because I have considered the whole situation. You see what I'm saying? And so my objective is for you to be able to make the decision that you need to make, use the discernment lessons to enrich your own discernment in your life, what in relationships around you. Because, I mean, our discernment doesn't just work for us, right? It works for people who trust us, who look to us for guidance. And I think it's dangerous for you to speak in anyone's life or on anyone's situation if you have not activated your gift of discernment, because like really, what are you telling them? What are you saying? Because if you don't have these skills to be able to critically think, to make wise decisions, to really think things through, research, use your experience, use the Holy Spirit, and do all of the things that are required to make a discerning decision, then it's how are you really helping anybody? How are you helping the people who come to you for guidance, who come to you for wisdom, who comes to you to offer them a different perspective, or maybe offer them some information that they didn't consider, or to pray for them, or just to be a listening ear to them? If you have no discernment, how do you even know how to act or behave when someone needs you? And so I think that it's important for us, for everybody, even though I know that everybody will not do this, will not participate in this, will not understand this. Those who do, those who feel called to participate, I want you to do that, right? I want your input and I want your feedback, really, no matter what perspective you're coming from. My ask is that you ask God for discernment, right? And you listen to the things that I'm telling you. Everything that I'm telling you, or I'm going to tell you, I have evidence of, I have proof of, I have other people's accounts of. So it's not anything that I'm coming to you with just my opinion that is not backed by faith, by research, by other people, by the Holy Spirit, by the Bible, by, you know what I'm saying? There's a ton of ways to ensure and to check behind me, which is what I am encouraging you to do. Now, of course, you have people who will tell you things and speak into your life, but they're not hoping, and they're hoping actually that you do not look into it, that you do not ask questions, that you do not research, that you don't seek the Holy Spirit, that you don't read the Bible, that you don't consider the principles and the ethics and other people and how other people will be affected by your decision. They're hoping that you don't do that, right? So I believe that there's like this push for us to not use our discernment. There's a push to deceive. And we can see that on all levels, government, religion, education, finance, relationships. We see it everywhere, in every single arena that we're a part of. We see that there is this push for deception. And the only antidote, the only way that you will not be deceived is if you have discernment. Which is why you'll hear a lot of people say, where's your discernment? You need discernment. But they never teach you. They never actually teach you how to activate or how to elevate your discernment, how to really like hone those skills and use those skills to enrich your life. They never actually tell you how. But this process is going to actually teach you how. And the best way to do that is by actually putting it into practice and using the skills in a real life scenario. So I want you to think of what I'm doing as a case study, so to speak, right? A case study on discernment, a case study on deception, because that's exactly what it is. What you'll find is a primary characteristic between my father and I, and why we butted heads so much is because I have the gift of discernment and he has the spirit of deception. And my gifting and his spirit were always at odds from the day. I don't even think it was from the day I was born. I think it was before I was even born. I think that gifting radiated even through my mother's womb as she was carrying me. And it was always something that my father, he hated it about me, but I believe that there were instances where he loved it about me. But the problem is that when I began to discern him, right? When I began to read between his lines, when I began to be able to see the unseen in him, right? When I began to seek the Holy Spirit about my father's actions, who was a pastor, who was saying that the Holy Spirit was telling him one thing and guiding him to do another thing, I would see that didn't line up with the Bible, and it didn't line up with what the Holy Spirit was telling me. And that was the problem. That was the conflict. And so we were always like at odds. And of course I didn't realize that until later on, just before I left the church, that like we're like literally at odds. Like my father really does not like me, and I don't really know why. I always thought maybe it was because I'm the only girl, because I'm a female. Maybe he has something against females, because I noticed patterns about how he would treat the women in the church, and how he would treat my mother, how he would treat family members and other women that he came in contact with. I would see different things that was off to me. So I thought maybe it was because I'm a female. That's why he doesn't like me. I have 4 brothers. They were treated differently. They were abused too. They were abused worse than me, to be honest. But there was a special type of dislike that my father had for me. And so it didn't make sense for a long time, but now it does. And I would bet, and I'm not even a betting woman, but I would bet that a lot of you have had these same experiences. Maybe not with your parent, right? Even though I am of the belief that if you are experiencing this in your romantic relationships, in your relationships with your kids and stuff like that, more than likely it was because you had that type of relationship with a parent. And that's where you first begin to doubt your discernment. That's when you first started really being deceived. And every year of your life, as you were growing, as you were trying to figure out the world, as you were trying to figure out your purpose, as you were trying to get closer to your creator, then you had people in your life that was sowing these seeds of doubt. See, doubt and deception doesn't just happen overnight. Most of the time it takes a person who is either close to us or who is in leadership to actually have that type of influence over us, that has the ability to deceive us, right? If a random person on the street just came up to you and was trying to deceive you, you'd be skeptical. You'd be on guard. You probably wouldn't even let the person approach you, right? But when it comes to our leaders, when it comes to our family, those people like just have this automatic access to us, have this automatic ability to manipulate and to control, to deceive us. And so I believe that more than likely the person who was deceiving you is a person who's really close to you. For some of us right now, it's the person that we may be sleeping with, that may be sleeping in the bed right next to us every night. For some of us, it was the people who raised us. For some of us, it's the people who are over us in our churches, in our jobs, in our organizations. And we're realizing that these people are manipulators, right? They are like deceivers. This is not that they have done something deceptive. No, but that's just them, right? That's their posture. That's their way of moving about in the world. That's their way of interacting with other people. Like, they are deceivers. And I realize that is the way my father is. He is a deceiver. And I don't want to be tied to him anymore. I don't want to be connected to him. I don't want to be his daughter. We don't choose our parents, but we do have the option to choose whether we continue relationships with them. You don't choose your family, but you can decide if that cousin that you have, that sister or brother that you have, that uncle that has been abusing all the girls in the household, but for some reason he's able to trick everybody into believing that he's okay, or that he's changed, or that God's working on him, or that he's seen the light, or all the different deceptive things that they do. They've been able to convince people that they're not who they are. And that's my objective here. So when I say, let me explain why I'm doing this and why I feel like it's so important. Now, I have had moments where I'm just like, wait, what am I doing? I'll be like, you guys, I mean, who does this, right? But to be honest with you guys, this is a lot more common than you think. There is a whole website, a whole community called Estranged Stories, right? Where people actually go on there and they tell about basically their decision to separate or to divorce, even if it's like a separation for a time. Sometimes you separate from people for a season, for a reason, for a lifetime, the same reason why you connect with people. And so there's this whole community of people who have been estranged from their parents. And then there's another side of it, of parents who are estranged from, whose kids have estranged from them, or I believe that they have even decided to separate themselves from. And so these people are telling stories about all of the things that have happened to them and what have led them to that decision. here's the key. Some things led them to that decision. Sometimes it's years of that thing, a lifetime of that thing, or those things that led them to that decision. I don't believe that anybody, okay, comes to the decision to divorce or to separate from their parent. I don't think they come to that decision lightly. And I just don't, right? And so anytime I hear that there's this problem between parents and their adult children or whatever, I always have this compassion for them, because I'm like, dang, what could possibly have happened? Or what are the things, like most of the time, it's a whole collection of things. So you can't even isolate it to this one incident or this one time period. It's a pattern of behavior, a pattern of treatment that lead people to this place in their lives where they're like, I have to separate myself from this person who may have raised me, this person who claimed that they love me, who may have carried me for 9+ months, who endured a tough pregnancy, or who conceived me on bad terms or circumstances, who, whatever the case may be, who is in a bad place in their life. But you find now that those excuses or those things, those factors, right, ultimately still is going to lead you to the place where you're like, I still need to separate myself. Yeah, I understand that my parent was on drugs my entire childhood, and maybe they didn't really have a choice because the drug had just captivated them and it had them so strong. But today, that is something that I consider, but it's still going to lead me to the same place where I know that it's best for me to separate myself, even considering the circumstances in which my parent was the way they were. Okay? Because that's another thing that people like to do. They consider, well, that person, they were young when they had, they weren't ready for the world. They weren't given the tools to be a good parent. There's no book on parenting. There's, you know what I'm saying? Y'all, I done heard it all. Okay? I done heard it all, child. All these excuses. And like I say excuses, but they're reasons. You know what I mean? They're valid reasons. They actually did impact my parents' ability to parent. However, I'm still in the same space today where I believe, even considering those circumstances, it's still best for me to separate or to divorce my parent. Because considering those and making that the reason why I maintain a relationship is not helping me. This doesn't serve me at all. In fact, it's making the situation worse, because I can't even solve or resolve or address the issues that happened during that time period, because it's always going to fall back on that person had this circumstance or that circumstance. So it leaves you in a place where you're not even getting anywhere. You're not even progressing, because it's always going to be a reason. It's always going to be an excuse. There's no accountability. I was on drugs, but I take responsibility because I chose to even try it to begin with. Like, I chose that life. And because I chose that life, it was detrimental to you. It was harmful to you. I put you in situations that left you susceptible to abuse, or where you were abused. I neglected you. I left you. And anything short of an admittance and accountability and responsibility for things that have happened in your childhood, it just really comes off as an excuse. It's happened in my own life. I've done the same thing with my sons. They brought up an issue, and I failed to realize that because I gave them a reason for why I did what I did, it came off as an excuse and a lack of accountability and responsibility. And there is a generation of parents, I would say, like the generation that my parents were in, the late 60s, probably I would say maybe 60s, 8 to 80s or 85, somewhere around there, where they don't believe that they should even be confronted about the things that they put you through or that their decisions caused. They feel as their child, first you should have the understanding, and if you don't have the understanding, then you just have to accept it. And they're not really willing to come to a place of understanding or acceptance or accountability or responsibility of admitting or anything like that. And sometimes that leaves people in a space where I can't get past this because my parent is right here and I'm able to talk to my parent, but I'm not able to talk to my parent. I'm not able to actually make progress with my parent. In fact, when I do bring it up, I end up feeling worse. I get guilt tripped. I get manipulated into believing I'm wrong, that, my experience, I get gaslighted that my experience didn't really happen. It didn't happen like I thought it happened. And if it did happen the way I thought it happened, it was probably my fault. And if it wasn't my fault, then it was the devil's fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just is always something. And I think that people now are realizing that, especially like I said, given what has just happened with the election and stuff like that, people are realizing that there are a lot of toxic relationships that we have, and that these relationships are really doing us some serious harm mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. It's affecting our mental health. It's affecting our digestive system. It's keeping us awake at night. We're not sleeping like we should. We're eating out of emotion, or we're not eating out of emotion, or like we're drinking, or we're doing all the things to cope with the relationships that we are maintaining. And it's like, why are you maintaining these relationships that are literally like killing you? And that's the realization that I had to come to, is that I'm maintaining a relationship that is harming me, right? That is really making me physically sick. That is keeping me from my true relationship with God, because it's distorting the God of the Bible. It's distorting who God created me to be. Those are the types of things that was happening to me. And I had to come to this place of, okay, like, you got to save yourself. You got to look out for what's best for you. You have a family now. So you can't let your family that you were born into screw up the family that you bore. You know what I'm saying? Like I gave birth to my kids, right? And I have a responsibility to them. And this responsibility to be a kid, to be a child to my parents, like, where do we draw the line? Like, where do we like decide, okay, I got to cut ties with my parent because it's affecting my ability to be a parent. You see what I'm saying? And that's how deep it is for a lot of us. And we're not realizing that the relationships that we are working so hard to maintain, we're working hard to forgive and forget. Every holiday, we're working really hard to play nice, go along to get along. We just want all the family together. So we're going to be in the same room with the abuser. We're going to deal with the subtle abuses, and we're going to deal with all of that just because that's what we're taught to do. There is a whole book called Divorcing a Parent, and I have it near. Anyway, y'all don't need to see it. Y'all will see it soon, because I'm going to be going through some aspects of the book to show you guys that it's not as uncommon as you probably think. In fact, people who have done this, people who have divorced their family members, people who have divorced their parents, people who have divorced their friends. Maybe you were divorced, okay? Maybe somebody divorced you, or maybe you divorced somebody. You didn't call it that. You didn't call it a divorce, but that's what it was. And the reason I call it a divorce is because those ties are so strong, right? Those bonds are so strong that it takes more than just you saying, oh, well, I'm cutting this person off. No, it takes more than that. It takes prayer, okay? It takes counseling. It takes seeking guidance from friends. It takes like clinging a little bit closer to friends, to the ones that are healthy, to the family members that are healthy. It takes you saying, God, I have to remove this person from my life and take away the guilt and the shame that I feel. Take away the hurt that I feel, because just because I cut this person off for my best interest and for my well-being doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. Like, some people think, okay, you were able to do that. You were able to cut the person off, so that means you're cold-hearted. And I had even somebody ask me, if you'll do that to your father, what will you do to me? And I'm just like, if my relationship with you is unhealthy, then I'm going to cut that off too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really not that hard. It's not that hard to understand. The point is that there comes a time where you have to self-preserve. You have to look at yourself and say, hey, you know what? I'm responsible for my healing. I'm responsible for the pain that this person caused. I'm responsible for the consequences of maintaining this relationship. And if it's harming me, if it's causing me to make bad decisions, if it's causing me pain, if it's causing me time, if it's causing me other relationships that I value, then I need to really seriously look at cutting this off. So that's where I was. And I was in this space for years, you guys. Like, I've talked about this like for several years at least, but I just never did it. I just was like, it's not time yet. It's not time. Like, I didn't feel like, I don't know, maybe like I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't give it time and space and prayer and forgiveness and discussion and going through all the emotions and going through all the holidays and stuff, because that's when you really start missing people. When maybe like their birthday comes up, maybe your birthday comes up, and y'all were used to like doing stuff together, but every birthday you was getting in trouble because y'all aren't good together. Y'all made bad decisions together. Maybe it's every family holiday. Are you going to be the one who doesn't come to the family get together because the person who abused you is also there? You have to decide that. You have to decide what other people are you going to be cutting off because you can't just cut that person off, right? You know that there's going to be other like casualties of this situation because they're too close, or like, how can I possibly cut certain people out and not this person too? Because then it's like, it's too close. Everything's just gonna get nasty and muddy and confusing, and I just don't want to deal with it. Like, some of us really think about this type of stuff every time at the family reunion. Like, you dread going, you dread being a part of it, but that's my family though, and I have to, because that's just what we always been taught. And then there's this church event, or you have this fear of missing out on a party or a get together every year, even though it's not good for you. We do stuff all the time that's not good for us. But I think that we're getting into this space now, into this like year, or into this like season, or we're coming to the realization as we see all the deception that is going on around us in the world, where we're like, my discernment has to be on point, right? And I can't ignore what I see, what I feel, what I hear, what I know, what I sense. I can't ignore those things and just continue life like it's not a thing. Because as I deny the things that I'm seeing that aren't right, I'm actually denying myself the ability to heal, the ability to have a life that is full, that is healthy, have relationships that are healthy, that are thriving. I'm preventing myself from elevating. I'm preventing myself from truly like experiencing happiness, from my peace. Like, you're keeping yourself from those things because you don't want to face the realization that people you love just aren't good for you. So that's what it is. And so I wanted to explain why I am doing this whole series about divorcing my father. Why am I making it public? Why am I doing this in such a open way? I know it's not culturally really accepted for us to just come out and speak out against our parents. It's not culturally accepted for us to be so open about our decision to separate ourselves from our family members. Like, it's just not culturally accepted, which means that it's all that much more important for me to do it this way, right? Because for so long we've been guilted and shamed into maintaining relationships that are not good for us. What if I come on here and I am open about what I've experienced? I'm open about making this declaration and this separation from my father, who is toxic to me, right? What if that actually frees up someone else to do it? And let's just say for the sake of saying that it doesn't push anybody or provoke anybody to do the same thing, right? But what if people can see what I'm doing and then realize how much more valuable their relationships are? And they take an internal look and say, hey, you know what? I've been toxic. I've been the type of person that people need to separate themselves from. And then they change. And then they're like, I don't want to be this way. I don't want to be the toxic friend. I don't want to be the one who's always manipulating everybody and playing these mind games and doing all the things, all the devilment. I don't want to do that anymore. What if that happens? See, that's what we're not willing to consider. We're not willing to consider that maybe me doing this publicly doesn't actually promote people to do it too, even though it validates your experience, right? Maybe what it does is actually heals more relationships than it causes to separate. Okay? Did you ever think about that? That's what I think about. That's what gives me the battery in my back. That's what gives me the drive to say, hey, no, I really do need to do this. I really do need to go through with this, because it doesn't just validate those experiences and provide you with a community of people who may be experiencing the same thing, right? But it also shows people that healing needs to take place, that your way of being in your relationships, your tactics, your little mind games, your little narcissistic tendencies, all the little games you play, the little manipulations, you deceiving people, you lying, you doing all the things. Aren't you tired of that? And then when you think about it, you don't even have to be that way. Like, you really don't even have to be that way. So it's not only am I tired of this, right? I'm tired of my own toxicity, but this toxicity is not even necessary. This is not advancing me at all. This is ostracizing me from the people that I love and that I want to love me, right? That I want to be around. I want to be around me. So I don't want to be the toxic friend anymore. I want to change. And so when I wrote this book, this Discernment for Dummies, I also put, you see right there, and deceivers. Because I put a note in there because we don't want to just assume that a deceiver, someone who's been manipulative and controlling, just wants to be that way. Maybe that's just how they have learned to navigate the world. And so maybe even through us taking a stand and saying, no, we are not going to deal with this type of behavior. If this is the behavior that you're engaging in, you won't be doing it with me because I'm cutting you off, right? But what if it's like a lesson to them that says, hey, you know, I've been that way. I've been that friend. I've been that family member. And now I don't want to be that way no more. I want healthy relationships. I want real connections. I don't want people to be connected to me because I've lied about who I am, what I'm about. And I pray that happens more often than not, that people see through this experience that, dang, I've been a pretty crappy person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been real crappy. Let's just be honest about it, okay? And just be like, I'm ready to change. That's what I'm praying for, you guys. So that's why I'm doing this. And God has given me some ideas. And so that's what you're seeing come to life. Now, I know I'm a creative, right? And I'm a bit innovative in my thinking. But God has blessed me with this ability to not only see a problem, but also seek solutions, right? And through my experience, I not only was able to identify these problems going on within faith communities, churches, but also there's this community on social media that has come to a huge rise, right? That's the life coaching community. That's the guru community, the like spiritual advisor community. That's even like the tarot and all of that community, right? These fields, right, are unchecked. They are, there is no ethical body that ensures that these people are not hurting people. There's no ethical body that makes sure that a person is even qualified. There are people who are out there life coaching in areas that they have no experience in, no education in, know nothing in, right? They're simply doing it as a way of gaining access and gaining money. And largely the church is the same way, right? Because anybody really can put up a sign that says, this is a church, I'm a pastor, and they just do their thing. And because of this title, because of what they say they do, you give them like virtually unlimited access to your life. You give them access to your kids. You give them access to your finances. They know what's going on in your most private relationships. You give them access to your job, to knowing what's going on within your family unit and all of that stuff. They know an incredible amount of information on you. Now imagine a person who is a deceiver having unlimited access to you and your family and having an ungodly amount of information about you. That is what is happening in these situations right now. That's what's happening. That is what's happening in a lot of churches. That's what's happening in this whole social media field of like self-help, guru, life coaching, and all of that stuff. Now, because those fields are unregulated and there's no ethical body or anything, then people are just able to run amok, right? You see these people out here all the time that's just, I'm a life coach, and they ain't even live no life. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what life have you lived to be life coaching anybody? But I think that it's up to us to to establish a system, to establish a community that is concerned about those ethical considerations, that are concerned about governing those types of industries. And because there isn't any yet, why can't we do it, right? We see a lot of issues that are happening within these communities, but we are powerless to do anything about it. There's nowhere we can go. There's nobody we can complain to. A lot of these things they just fell short, or they fall short of being a legal issue within like the secular court system, right? But there are a spiritual issue. There are people who are spiritually abusing people who come to them for help, who come to them for life coaching, who come to them for counseling, like non-traditional counseling. Now, we know that counselors, most have a governing body if they got their counseling the way that I got mine, right? Went to a 4-year university, you're part of this governing body. You see I have like certifications and stuff up there, right? That I'm a part of this ethical body, so that everything I do is will be checked or can be checked by people in case I do something wrong. But where is that when it comes to these life coaches? Where is that when it comes to these churches? Now, some of them do, right? Some of them do have some type of like, hierarchy or whatever. But how effective is that, really? And so I think that I know that is part of the vision that God gave me. And it gave me this vision because of what I went through. Because I saw that when I had all these issues that was taking place in my own home church, who was I supposed to go to? Who was I supposed to go to for spiritual guidance when the pastor was my father and his bishop is my uncle? Who was I supposed to go to? And you would think, go to your uncle, right? Because that's your uncle, so your uncle's supposed to look out for you, whatever. You know what I'm saying? He's supposed to hear you out. That ain't how that works. That's not how that works. So what happens when people have an issue in a church? What happens when there are believers who are at conflict, who are at odds? Right now, people just go their separate ways, or they deal with it. What if you just want to be heard, right? What if you want to just express your church hurt? What if you're wrong, right? Where are the group of people that you could talk to just be like, look, let me just tell you what happened. And I trust that you're going to use your discernment to guide me or to advise me in a way that doesn't harm me or doesn't further harm me, doesn't further victimize me, that validates my experience, but also can speak truth to me, right? Those are the things that I was looking for when I was going through the things that I was going through. And they were non-existent. I tried to talk to family members because it was all like a family church, but you don't get anywhere. And even when it's not all family, people just don't get anywhere. And I just like to think that if you see that this is an issue and you have the wherewithal, like the level-headedness of it, then why not start that? Why not establish that? You know what I'm saying? I don't feel this like I'm not capable. Like, I see it's a problem. I'm level-headed. I'm a smart individual. I'm grounded. I have the Holy Spirit. I'm in my Bible. Why can't I, along with you guys, establish this system, this organization, this community, this whatever you want to call it? What I call it is Kingdom Court, where there is a way for people to be heard on both sides of the equation, and where there are a group of people who are discerning individuals who can objectively look at the situation with their knowledge, with their research, with their skills, their abilities, with the Holy Spirit, with their discernment, and actually help people to heal and to work through their disputes. I'm just saying, you can call me crazy, child, but it's possible. And it's not only possible, but it's happening. And it's happening in real time. And I just want you guys to be prepared. And not only be prepared, but like actually roll up your sleeves and like help wherever God puts it in your heart to help, whether it's just donating, whether it's just watching, whether it's just sharing, whether it's taking a more active role in helping to establish Kingdom Court, helping to spread stories, to talk to people. And if you know somebody who has a story to share, a story of church hurt, a story of, of abuses that have happened within the life coach community, within the guru community, within some of these coaching communities and counseling communities, like tell them about me, right? And tell them that this is a safe space, that I understand not only from what I've experienced, but also I understand from a place of a counselor, right? Of a friend, of a daughter, of someone who has seen injustices happen and were powerless to do anything, but I'm no longer powerless. Tell them to come over here and share their story. You're going to be hearing about more people than just me. Sadly, but also good, right? Because then people can really actually have lasting and sincere healing. So yeah, I'm not supposed to be keeping y'all so long. Hey, Ronky. Thank you, sis. It's true. It's true. It's true. So anyways, you guys, I think I'm going to drop another 2 videos today. Y'all, like, I know it's starting a little bit slow. Right now it's building up. Consider this like you're listening to a court show, right? And a person is, which is me in this case, is giving testimony. So I'm giving you guys testimony of what I witnessed and what I experienced, right? But I'm also giving you evidence of these things. So think of it like a typical court show, okay? But it's real, of course, it's reality. And it's real evidence, real recordings, real witnesses, real things that have happened that I have evidence of. And I'm going to show you guys every bit of it. All right. This is a very transparent channel. I'm a transparent person. And everything that I know, you will know. I will break down how I discovered things that I did, when I discovered them, how my brain processed what was happening, what research I did, what evidence I have, who else I talked to. Like, I'm gonna share all of this stuff with y'all. You will hear testimonies from people who aren't even alive anymore. That's how deep and how far back this goes. And so I want you guys to stay tuned. Make sure that you're sharing. This story is going to get really deep. It's going to be several episodes of this divorcing my father as part of Kingdom Court. And it may start off a little bit slow, but trust me, it's going to build. And so you're going to want to be a part of this process from the beginning. And then, of course, I'm going to be calling on you guys to help with certain aspects of Kingdom Court. If you truly believe that this will help, that it's beneficial, that it's a God thing, that it'll help faith-based communities as well as communities that are in the helping industry. If you really believe that this is something that is good, then help me to establish it. Help me to determine the rules and the organization and all of those things. Because what we want to do is make sure that this is something that's sustainable and that it can be used in other areas and other arenas, that people even in other countries could probably use this. In other industries can use this model to ensure that there is accountability within their organization or within what they do. So yeah, I think that's it that I have to share with y'all right now. Episode 2 will be dropping pretty soon. I just got it downloaded, so I'm going to go ahead and upload it so that you guys can see episode 2 and 3. Those are both ready for you guys right now, okay? I love y'all, and I thank y'all for sticking by me. I thank y'all for withholding judgment, because I know y'all have probably been like, what in the world is she doing? But I appreciate you just withholding judgment right now until you are able to get more information. That's what a discerner would do, is to let me sit back, let me watch a little bit more, let me hear a little bit more, let me see what's going on before I render a judgment. And that's exactly what we'll be doing in Kingdom Court. We're going to be listening. We're going to be analyzing. We're going to be thinking critically and discussing all of this stuff before we actually make a judgment. But what we are to do is make a judgment. We need to make a judgment in these situations. You make judgments in your life every day. But the only time you stop judging is when it comes to other people. But that's when your judgment. Listen, child, that's when you really should be judging, okay, child? Because, listen, a person can truly ruin your life. If you're not making a good judgment about who you marry, like, a spouse can ruin you. You have to make a good judgment. But we tend to throw that out of the window. Well, I'm not judging nobody. Yes, you should. There's nothing wrong with that. Who told you that judging people was wrong? We're supposed to make good judgments about who our friends are, who we associate with, who we do business with, who we sleep with. You know what I'm saying? Y'all ain't making good judgments about who you sleep with because you don't want to judge. Child, you better judge. Listen, you better judge, honey. Okay? And you better make a good judgment because your life really depends on it. A lot of y'all, listen, at this big old age, we cannot afford to keep making bad decisions. We really can't. I can't afford to make another bad decision. I'm 44 years old. How long is it going to take me to recover from a bad decision that I just failed to consider, to think about, to do research on, to pray about? You know what I'm saying? But we do that and we continue to make these bad decisions and just be like, I guess I just learned in hindsight. But you don't have to worry about learning something in hindsight when you could make the right decision to begin with. And that's what I want for us, okay? I want us to make good decisions in our life. Our decision, like your next decision got to be your best decision, sis. You can't afford to keep sleeping around with the wrong person because you're not making a good decision. You can't afford to keep marrying the wrong person. You can't afford to keep making bad friendships, bad financial decisions. Child, you just can't. Or if you can, just keep on doing it, child. But I can't. And I'm done with it. I don't want to make another bad decision. And I don't have to, because I have discernment. And I'm going to use it. Okay? I suggest you use it too, child. All right. I love y'all. And I appreciate your time. I'll talk to you later. And remember, you are important to me. I need you to survive. Bye-bye for now.